Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, viewers and friends of Ikra TV. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host Iqbal Bana. I come into your homes every week, day in, day out, trying to bring to you something of interest. Well, over the last 2 weeks, most of us have been consumed by this devastating sort of effects of the rains that has had on our brothers and sisters in Pakistan. I'm sure every one of you will have seen the devastation that has been caused over there, the utter torrential rain and the water seeping through the whole of the country. 1/3 of the nation is completely submerged in water. Millions of people have been affected. Thousands have lost their homes and all their crops. They've lost everything in these terrible floods. Last week we did a special program where Naz Shah was supposed to be coming to talk about politics, but obviously this emergency overtook us, and both Naz and I had to change our plans. She went to Pakistan to try and see how she could help and get a first-hand experience with Islamic Relief, and I brought in two people here, Ashar Javed, my dear friend, and Tasneem Hassan, to talk about the impact of the floods on the people of Pakistan, and particularly what we could do here to try and help our brothers and sisters over there. We also talked about an event that was taking place in Bradford, and I'm sure these events are taking place throughout the country. People are digging deep into their pockets, deep into their hearts, and contributing as much as they can to try and help our brothers and sisters in Pakistan who are facing this calamity that has befallen them. And we talked about the event that took place in Bradford on Saturday night, organized by the Yorkshire Crescent Charitable Trust, and I attended that event. I was blessed to be there, and on the night about 150, 200 people, 250 people, my friend, my guest will be able to elaborate, attended, and on the night they raised over £71,000. May Allah bless those who organized the event and who raised this money, and those who donated abundantly, both in this world and the world hereafter. £71,000 is nothing compared to the devastation but every penny raised on that night will help. And I'm sure there are other people around the country and throughout the world who will be making enormous efforts to try and help people in Pakistan. Today I have, because I'm continuing with this theme, because this devastation is going to take months and months and maybe even years to recover from. It's not one of those things that, it happens today. People, it's like, हमारे कहते हैं सौदा वोटर का पावर होता है. 2 दिन के लिए everybody's in a hiatus and then people forget. This devastation, this calamity, the impact of that is going to be lasting for many, many moons to come, unfortunately, because the infrastructure has been completely decimated. As we see on the news, even the UN have recognized that the challenge facing the government and the people of Pakistan is absolutely enormous. And this is something that is going to be a legacy for whoever is going to be in Pakistan for years to come. And the support that they will need is going to be insurmountable over the next few months. And we need to make sure that this issue is the forefront of our daily lives. So I've got today Aurangzeb Iqbal, who is a former lawyer, now dealing with properties mainly, but a man who is deeply committed to charitable work. He was there on the night. He was one of the members of the Yorkshire Crescent Charitable Trust, and he was one of the organizers. And I've asked him to come and join me today specifically. I know you'll be watching the news on BBC One and ITV, but you only get a 5, 10, 15, 20-second glimpse of what is happening. We don't get the full view. But obviously Aurangzeb has got very strong connections in Pakistan. He's got family there, he's got interest there, and he can give us a much more in-depth knowledge about the devastation that has taken place, and the effects, and the rescue services that is taking place, the sort of rebuilding that is taking place. But much more importantly, at the moment there are people who've got no shelter, who've got no food, they've got no medication, they've got basically nothing at all, and they're relying on people like yourself, myself, and others to try and help them out of this devastating situation. Aurangzeb Sahab, welcome to Ikra TV and welcome to Real Talk. Thank you for giving up your time. I mean, I'm sure, like everybody else, you saw the program, you saw what's happening in Pakistan, and like everybody else, your heart must have fallen for, suffered as well. I mean, how did you feel when you first saw what was happening in Pakistan?
If you put it into context, if you take the whole of the United Kingdom and imagine the whole of the United Kingdom, a first world country, one of the foremost countries in the world, one of the richest countries in the world, if this the whole of the UK, imagine submerged in water, whole of it submerged in water.
Because 1/3 of Pakistan
is the equivalent of the whole of the UK.
Yeah.
Whole of and the population that's affected in Pakistan is the same population as Australia. So you're talking about 33 million pounds. So just to get an idea of the devastation caused by this. Now, the point to note is that Pakistan contributes about 1% to carbon emissions, to the world sort of carbon emissions, but is paying a heavy, heavy price for the rest of the developed world, who really ought to come to the fore and say, well, look, we have been industrialized for the last 200 years. We have been the major cause and continue to be the major cause of carbon emissions. Unfortunately, it's all landed on your doorstep, causing untold damage, that we will come and assist. Now, even, as I say, in a developed country, first world country like UK, if the whole country was submerged in water, the devastation would be total. It would annihilate. Because when you see the flow of the floods that come, the power that they bring, we've seen the buildings collapse as if they were made of sand. And it's the same thing would happen in this country. So we've got to bear in mind that today's Pakistan, which country is going to be next? Because climate change is here to stay. So if I can carry on, so imagine the whole of the United Kingdom area, the whole of the United Kingdom being submerged in water. Secondly, 33 million people affected. 33 million people. Now, if you imagine that if every person in Pakistan that's been affected is given £1, that's 33 million pounds. So when you say on the night 70,000 was collected, alhamdulillah, that's a huge amount. But you see
in the
that
context.
On the context. So we've got to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is if we were to give every person that is affected even £10, that would be 330 million pounds. And what would £10 give them? £10. I was in Pakistan in June this year, after a period of 4 years. And I was happily surprised and pleased to see the progress in terms of buildings and in terms of the infrastructure, and people are beginning to take pride. If you think that 50 years ago, a lot of it was rural, the cities were very small, but now the cities have expanded exponentially, and the house prices are very high. Living standards are improving, and so on and so forth. It's happy to see. And for this to happen in an area which was pretty poor anyway, which is pretty poor, and relying on the fields and lands.
Can I just ask you, I mean, obviously, we understand climate change has played an important part in this.
Yes.
And that is something that is, quite rightly, the world needs to take sort of cognizance of. But in the sense of the infrastructure in Pakistan, I mean, whatever the cause was, that is something we need to look at in future. What are the immediate concerns? I mean, as I said to you, we've got people out there who've got no shelter. Because I see the news, and you see the devastation, people living on the streets, and between in the middle of the road, which is built higher, and next to it, all the land is sort of at the low level. So they've got no shelter. I mean, they're looking for the smallest bit of plastic to try and cover their roofs, the heads.
That we put all our effort, and again, from an Islamic point of view, we are only accountable for ourselves. Exactly. I'm only accountable for myself. So I need to do what I possibly can. And then again, there's a verse in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, who will loan to Allah a beautiful loan? For he will increase it manifold to his credit, and he will have besides a liberal reward. So apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increasing it manifold in this life, then there's a liberal reward to come in the hereafter. So if we just on that verse, we act on that verse, thinking there is no diminution in what we have, in what we possess, if we give in charity.
And I'm sure,
also the other thing to think is,
most of the viewers will be doing that. ICRA TV has been raising funds
Yes.
from day one.
yes,
Right? ICRA TV, has been raising, and lots of people have been donating. Thousands of people have
Of
been
course.
donating thousands of pounds.
yes,
And that is the intention. People देते हैं कि सवाब के हिसाब से, निस्बत से.
बिल्कुल.
They want to receive the reward not only in this world but in the world hereafter.
Yes,
So you're
yes.
absolutely right. And a lot of our viewers are extremely very generous. Then that's what happened on Saturday night. People
Yes.
who came there, they saw, they knew
Yes.
what had happened, and they dug deep into their pockets.
yes.
And they gave huge amounts of money.
But like you said earlier, it's not a case of digging deep. Now, it's ensuring that whatever we can afford on a weekly basis, monthly basis, that this is not forgotten.
Oh yeah.
Because we remember when all these tragedies happen anywhere in the world, when these tragedies happen, it's in the news, people contribute,
Yeah.
and then another news item takes over and it's forgotten.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
those people have still got their lives to lead.
Yep.
So what we've got to make sure is that these programs such as yours and this channel is a fantastic conduit to remind people that the problem still exists and that we
And
must,
that's why for 2 weeks in a row,
yes,
ICRA TV has said, look, because the devastation is such that this is something that is an ongoing issue.
absolutely.
That's
For,
gonna be
very,
affecting
for
it.
very many
Yeah.
years.
It's
And
gonna
you
be-
know, you were talking about the infrastructure.
Yeah.
You see in this country, infrastructure is second to none.
Hmm.
But then as soon as we've had a bit of a drought, and then in areas when it does rain, are nowhere near as on the scale as Pakistan, but here, what do we have? We have floods.
Yeah, we've
We
had
have
many,
floods.
had
Yeah.
many floods locally in West Yorkshire.
Absolutely.
We've had
So,
huge
so
floods.
you can imagine that even with the best infrastructure, if this country had the same amount of rain as Pakistan has had in that area, there would be the same devastation. There's only so much the infrastructure can take away. It's like the example of a sink. If you run the tap very, very fast, it'll soon start building up and it's going to start overflowing.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
exactly what's
Can I
happened
just
there.
say to my viewers, one of the other guests who was supposed to be joining me today is the Bradford Consul General, the Pakistani Consul General based in Bradford, Ibrar Hussain Khan, who was there on Saturday night, and he was very keen to join me today. He was supposed to be joining us on Saturday as well, but because of the diary scheduling issues, he was not able to. But he expressed a real desire to be here today because I invited him to be with me today with Aurangzeb to give us, the perspective about what is happening, what is the government doing, what are the challenges that the government is facing, and what sort of support the government requires, not just from governmental institutions around the world, but also from individuals like yourself and myself, which is something we're going to continue talking about. Unfortunately, Ibrahim Saad had an emergency and has had to go, and therefore was on his way here, but has had to divert back, and will not be able to join us. So I hope everything is well with him, and we'll see him soon, inshallah, in the next few weeks. Because as we've just said, this issue is not going to go away. It's not one of those issues that is going to be dealt with in the next few weeks. It's going to be months and years for the people of Pakistan. Now, I know we talked about climate change, the impact of climate change, but one of the issues, people have talked about is that because of the rural society that we have, the poverty that people have, they haven't got the ability to build resilient homes. Right? And we've seen these floods happen regularly over the last 30 or 40 years. Do you think the people of Pakistan will want to see a different Pakistan emerge out of this tragedy?
Every person in Pakistan or any poor country desires for nothing more for better living standards, especially now in this connected world. Years before the internet, you never knew how the other half lived.
Yep.
Now, even if you go into the remotest village and they've got a smartphone, and they can see how people live in America, they can see how people live in Europe, they can see the lifestyle and the bling, so they know. And so they yearn to have the same kind of a standard of
which
life
is
and
human
living.
instinct, yeah.
So it's even more now in your face than it ever was in the past. It was dreams. You go, in years gone by, people from here, say back in the 50s and 60s, would go back to India, Pakistan, or whatever, and they'd describe this country, and people could just could imagine. But now you see, you don't have to travel. You can just go on FaceTime each other and see the sights, and it's on social media. It's as if you are here, or from here as if you're over there. So it's made the world very, very small, and those aspirations are there. And in fact, you see in Pakistan, alhamdulillah, there's an emerging middle class. Insofar as Pakistan is concerned, it's got the second highest freelance software writers,
IT.
IT guys, after America. So there's and I've seen this in Pakistan. There's a real desire amongst families to ensure that the children study, and what especially on the IT side, it's now finally made a level playing field. Because if you've got a smartphone here, if you've got a computer here, and you've got a computer there, the only thing that distinguishes you is your ability. So that it's a level playing field. And now what you have is those countries, developing countries, have got far more hunger. You look at India and the number of IT graduates it's producing, and now head of Google and so on and so forth are people of Indian origin. So now it's more of a level playing field because of IT, and hopefully that will propel countries such as Pakistan into inshallah, I've heard of many companies in Pakistan and India which are being sold to Western companies for millions of pounds. So that will bring in funds.
Well, I mean, inshallah, that's a long term inshallah period. The future is going to be bright, inshallah. The question is emerging at the moment because we've seen these floods happen regularly. And in the past, you'd hope that the country would have sort of developed some sort of a strategy to deal with these sort of devastations. And it seems like it hasn't. Now,
you see, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. The government is, first and foremost, the government is to blame.
Successive governments.
Oh, successive, absolutely.
We don't blame
successive governments. And I subscribe to the Times newspaper, and on this tragedy, there were 95% comments were negative. So I wrote back, and
these are comments by individual members of the public
after the news item, and I then made a comment.
So what sort of comments were they making?
They're very negative about Pakistan and Pakistanis, about the corrupt politicians and people, what they get up to here and so on and so forth. So I was able to reference and say that what you're peddling is myth. Those of Pakistani origin here are just as hardworking as anybody else. But the fact that you label somebody and then repeat a lie often it becomes the truth, that kind of thing. So the thing is, what we've got to do is the government has to do its part. But having said that, you could have had the more secure of the buildings. But when you get floods of this scale and magnitude, and we saw perfectly good buildings, just being razed to the ground by the floods.
Yes. I mean, that's happening in Germany, it's happening in Spain.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's not unique in
it's not
sense.
unique. So to that extent, but I appreciate that maybe there would have been slightly less devastation had there been proper roads, proper guttering system, proper. But all that requires a lot of money, and it requires foresight, and it requires these governments to ensure that the money is spent for the public as well, because you better them, you better the country, and you promote the country, and you go, you are then.
I agree the government needs to sort of have a better strategy for this. But I mean, Pakistan is I was fortunate enough to go to Pakistan quite by accident many years ago, after one of the devastating floods in 2009, I think it was. 2007. And one of the things I noticed was it's an extremely natural resource rich country. And it could be self-sufficient if it, and I was amazed by the beauty of Pakistan itself. And I thought it could be self-sufficient. It could be the breadbasket of Asia. We're going to have to take a short break. Shall we be coming back soon? If you want to ring in, share your thoughts with us, please do so on 01274 214 299. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this issue and what you think the people need to do and how they can support our brothers and sisters in Pakistan. It's a tragedy, as I've said before, and you know it yourself, that has absolutely befallen our people of Pakistan. And it's something that affects all of us, whether you're of Pakistani origin or not. On a human level, it affects every one of us. So if you want to ring in and share your thoughts, please do so. We're going to go for a break. Don't go away. As I keep saying, make yourself a cup of tea or coffee or a faluda and come back and join us soon. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.